Hey man, say man, it's Brother Charles.
And I'm Jasmine.
Welcome to another installment of the Hopeful
Romantics
podcast, reporting live from the whip. We're inside my car, Bernadette Eloise, you know what I'm saying?
Oh my gosh.
We just coming to y'all reporting live. This is another quarantine edition.
Yeah.
You feel me? We not trying to contaminate each other's homes. So we decided to meet at a neutral location. Yeah. You know, we gonna get to the nitty gritty. We talking about the honeymoon phase a lot these last few weeks. We've had some differing opinions.
Yes, so we put a poll out about if the honeymoon phase has to end after we had just talked about the work that needs to be put into a relationship after the honeymoon phase kind of fizzes out. And we had a lot of questions and a lot of comments about if it has to end and what if it never ends, you know, and are there relationships that exist where you can live within that honeymoon phase for a long period of time. So we just wanted to come on and have a quick episode about, you know, what we feel the honeymoon phase is, what happens if and when it fizzes out, and just like the realities of the work you need to put into, you know, a relationship.
A whole relationship. All right. So the question is, what is the honeymoon phase?
We didn't pray in.
Oh, excuse me, Jesus. Father God, in the name of Jesus, we come to you right now, Lord, humble and thankful that you have been keeping us safe throughout this chaos, Lord. Father God, we give you praise and honor for this opportunity to pour into each other's lives while we pour into each other's lives. And we ask that you allow us to continue to be a blessing to those who listen, to those who watch, to those who tune in. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
So you said, what is the honeymoon phase?
What is the honeymoon phase?
When I think of the honeymoon phase, I think of when you first get into a relationship, there is just like this bliss, this unattainable bliss, where everything you think about, everything that you do is kind of centered around like the all that is this new person. You know, I think things are effortless when it comes to like texting. When you wake up in the morning, it's not even a thought. The first thing you do or the first thing that you think about is connecting with that person. You know, when you think about dates, like you're going on dates, if you guys are in the same place, like every day, every week, like it's not a case of like, are we going on a date? It's when is the date? You know what I mean? It's just like this time where your relationship really engulfs your life. You know, like it is just this pull to your person where it's like, I want to learn everything about you right now. You know what I mean? Like it's the late night phone calls. It's the falling asleep on the phone. It's the texting literally all day long. Job, no job, in school, in class. You guys are texting. You guys are talking all day long. It's just this period where you don't get tired. You just love being in their presence, or even like in their presence, even if it's not their physical presence, you know, just like in the presence of this person that you've met, you've connected with, and it's just electric, you know?
The honeymoon phase ain't nothing but a 90s R&B music video. Kissing and hugging and rubbing, caking, like you said, you on the phone. You ever walk around the house on the phone and you just start messing with stuff? And you finding yourself in weird positions. You done taken off
feet up on the wall.
Yeah, you done taken the couch cushions off and put them back on. You just touching like any and everything and all that other stuff.
I'm bleeding too. That was just
like see, we still in the honeymoon phase. She can't keep her hands off.
No, we're not.
But my thing is,
why does this always happen?
Oh, just because the car's
not on. You can't sit here with the car on. Wow.
That was rude. But yeah, so I think like The honeymoon phase is really just like any and everything that you wish could remain. You feel what I'm saying? Like, as you learn about your person, all the dope things, they always on your mind. You saying, I love you, I like you, all those other things. You just talking about your feelings way more.
Yeah.
And you just want that person to know that they're on your mind all the time. And like how your feelings are just like all positive about them.
It's also with like when in terms of like how much you share. This is a time where your friends may literally be tired of hearing about this person. You know what I mean? Like everything, everything kind of centers around this new love, you know, like this new person, like this new feeling, like this just everything new. It's just like when you get anything new, you know what I mean? Like there's a time where like it's just all about this new thing for a minute, you know, and the same happens with a relationship. When you first meet, and this doesn't have to just be in, meeting your person, like that person you're going to like live your life with, but this happens with just dating people. You know what I mean? There's just a period of time where
you be psyched, like,
right, and there's nothing really that can pull you down. You know, like of course, red flag. There's definitely negatives that can come up, but there's a time where it's just bliss,
and it feels so good. And it's like, you don't want anything to interrupt it. You don't think anything will interrupt it. You just can't believe that you found this person who's just so dope. Like, you be talking to him, like, with your friends, like, man, like, she's everything, bro. Like, like, I was, like, this is it, bro. Like, yo, she smell good. You feel me? Like, she artistic, creative, but, like, she about her. Like, you just saying everything positive, even though, you know what I'm saying, the negative side of that person might not have even shown itself yet, or if it has, you don't care. It doesn't even, you ain't worried about that.
You're focusing on all the positives, where even if there is a negative, you may not focus on it, you may not even notice it, or may not be so much of it may not bother you in that moment, you know, because you're so focused on how good this feels and how good this person is with you.
And I think it's levels to it based off of previous experiences, right? So if you are known to experience, let's call it bad relationships, right? And you find somebody who is like, okay, you are literally the antithesis of the people that I've been dealing with. The honeymoon phase might be even more intense because you're not used to people just being nice to you, or like showing you love, or like not asking you for a whole bunch of money, or just feeling like they got all, you know what I'm saying, all their right mind is where it's supposed to be. And if let's say you're a person who is known to not date a lot, period. You feel me? That might be your first or your second relationship. You don't have a lot to compare it to. You might be more psyched as well. So I think the honeymoon phase, not only it feels good, but it's based off of how you felt in the past. Yeah,
that's good. The honeymoon phase is also a time when you may not completely show this person who you are just yet. You know what I mean? We all know there's a period of time where you are putting your best foot forward. Like,
your best
you
foot.
Are on it. You are wearing your strengths on your sleeve. What? You know what I mean? Every day, every time you talk, every time you step out, you are really trying to put your best foot forward because you want this person to continue to, you know, want to be around you, you know. So you may hide some of your shortcomings, you know what I mean? You may work really hard to overcome some things that may be natural for you to do because you are trying to present yourself in the best possible light, you know. So I feel like for me, the honeymoon phase, sometimes if we start to talk about how long it will last, depending on how long it takes for you to open up, or how long it takes for that other person, or just like where you see the relationship going, in terms of how close you guys can actually be, may dictate how long that season is. You know, if you are a pretty open person where you can't really put your best foot forward every day, or you can't do it for so long, your honeymoon phase may be a little less because you guys are going to have to start experiencing who you really are on an everyday basis, regularly, naturally, a lot sooner than someone who can, you know, not fake it, but put on that type of show for a longer period of time, you know?
One thing I think about us was what really made me attracted to this relationship as a whole was the fact that I felt like we kept it a stack with each other about some pretty like deep things off jump.
That's true.
You feel what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not gonna fake like I wasn't putting my best foot forward,
no,
too.
for sure.
One thing about me was when I first started texting Jasmine, I knew that if I was making her laugh, I was in good position, right? Let's not fake.
But honestly, I laugh at everything.
But my texting game in the beginning, and even still now, for real, you still laugh at some of the things I say. Not as much. The laughs have gone down. But in the beginning, bruh, weak. Had her in stitches on a daily basis, right? And I think that I used to really sit and be like, nah, bro, we gone. I used to edit them jumps like, nah, that's not the, this gonna get her. This the laugh. Funny. This the big one. Oh, and when I would get them laughing emojis back, I'm like, got her. Like, for real.
Okay. But no, that's what that time is. You know, that's why it can be so fun. It can be just like on cloud nine. It can be something that is just incomparable to a lot of other things because you guys are doing your very, very best to continue to be someone that someone is willing to get to know. You know what I mean? So I talked a little bit about like the transition out of the honeymoon phase, but a lot of people asked if the honeymoon phase has to end.
If you want that jump to have a level of longevity, I think yes, but it doesn't have to be a negative thing if it does end.
Yeah, because somebody asked us if we were in the honeymoon phase. And I said no.
No, I just like her.
I genuinely don't think we're in the honeymoon phase because we've been together 3 years. 3 years. So, like, that's a long time to be in the honeymoon phase, in my opinion. But I know, like, in different seasons, different honeymoon phases can come, though, as well. So, like, I definitely predict that once we get married, there will be an additional honeymoon phase. Like, there can be this, like, coming and going of this phase. Like, this is not a stagnant thing. Not a lot of things in relationships are like you experience it and you never experience it again. You know what I mean?
There's not a lot of one and dones.
Right. Well, I'm thinking of a growth in terms of growth right now. So when it comes to like struggles, when it comes to your personal journeys and personal growth, there aren't a lot of things where you check off the box and you never really deal with that again. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like if you come into, and this is a tangent, I'm sorry, but if you come into the relationship with trust issues, let's say, you know, it's not like one day your partner is going to overcome that and you're never going to have to deal with that again. You know, like that's something you come into the relationship with that you may have to continue to work on for the length of that relationship. You may come to a point where it is much better than it has ever been because this person has proven themselves to be trustworthy, but that's still maybe a voice in your head that you have to keep constantly talking to or reassuring to be in the place where you're confident and you're comfortable in that position.
That's true.
You know, but back to does it have to end? Is that what I was answering? Mm-hmm. I think I think at a certain point, we had to be realistic with what our honeymoon phase looked like and where we were in our lives. You know what I mean? Like we were both in school.
Trying to make it.
Right, like we had things to do. So in terms of texting all day, and that was the thing too, because we started talking in the summer where you just have ample time in the summer. Yeah. And then we transitioned and we started, like we were dating when school started back up. Yeah. So we had class, we had exams, I had practice, like you had meetings, like we had things that were going to take us out of this relationship, you know? So like sometimes your honeymoon phase ends when your relationship doesn't have to take a back seat, but you have to figure out how your relationship fits into the reality of your life. You
got to reprioritize.
You know, exactly. Like,
and we were both in different phases of our life.
Very true.
You were about to transition. She was in
out of college, right?
Senior year. I had one more year left. I was a junior.
Yep.
So she had a whole different mindset about what the next few months had to be.
Yep.
Meanwhile, I'm like, back at it, back on campus. Let's get it. So I think it has a lot to do with what you're personally going through, like your own personal journey. And like I said, like just figuring out how to reprioritize to see where your relationship just fits in your life, period.
Right. Like, I really feel like when you know it's ending is when you start to have to schedule, for lack of better words, some things that used to be so effortless. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So a lot of people can think back on their relationship and be like, at a certain point, the good morning text may have slowed up. You know what I mean? It used to be, you know for sure when you open up them eyes, whoever woke up first, there was going to be a text in the other's phone saying good morning. It may be a paragraph. It may be a paragraph. You know what I mean? When you would wake up.
Love of my life.
Or you would wake up.
The butter to my bread. Without you, girl, I might be dead.
No,
like,
really.
That,
But no, really. You may wake up to a good morning text, or you may wake up to those long texts that the other person stayed up late and wrote for you while you were asleep. Like, those are the things that you may have to be like, wow, I haven't done that in a while. Let me do that now. You know what I mean? Let me get back to when it wasn't, when are we going on a date? It's what's the date this week? You know what I mean? Like, getting back to the place where the things that you did in the beginning, you still want to do, but you may have to plan when you're going to do them. Yeah. You know what I mean? It just comes a time where the work to stay in that place is work. You know, and I feel like once you get to that point, you're not necessarily in the honeymoon phase anymore.
But just because you have to put more action behind it doesn't take away from the validity of it. Yeah. And I think what people get scared of is when the honeymoon phase starts to fizzle out a little bit, mm-hmm. and they have to start putting more thought into it, more action behind it, or if they're not as excited, or like the butterflies, or, you know, right. a little smaller. Might be moths in there, you know what I'm saying?
Are moths bigger than butterflies?
You didn't have to do that.
I'm sorry.
She was a STEM major. But my thing is, like, as soon as the changes come, right, folk will get scared or think that the relationship is like fizzing out or coming to a close. Mm-hmm. No, that means really you should be excited, because now the relationship has kind of cemented itself into your life. It's been interwoven. So now, like anything else in your life that you want to grow, that you want to improve upon,
you tend to it.
You water it. You look at ways that it can become better, and then you make that move.
Yeah. At a point, your relationship is normalized. Like, at a point, you get used to having this person, you know, to talk to be with, to be around. And that's when we kind of slip away from the things that we used to do so heavily, mm-hmm. you know, and I completely agree that it does not have to be a negative. When I said that we weren't in the honeymoon phase anymore, I didn't feel any type of way, because I feel like we're in the phase now that we are working to maintain what we built. Yeah. You know, like, we are continuing to build, of course, but like, we know what we want, we know what we've done, and we know what we want to do to maintain this level of love, you know? So it's not a negative. It doesn't have to be a negative. It can be a negative if you fizzled out and you haven't acknowledged that there's work to be done to maintain kind of the bliss that you had once felt every single day, mm-hmm. every single moment. You know what I mean? And I think we want more people to be comfortable in the work. You know, like, a lot of people talk about the work. A lot of people talk about that relationships are work. But what does that mean? Yeah. You know, and some of that work comes from maintaining some of those things that you used to do all the time.
The honeymoon phase is the foundation. Yeah. But you can't just live on your house's foundation. You got to build. Continue to build. Like, you got to have the framework and everything else. And then as things progress, as things get better, that's when you can really start to look at different phases of your relationship. As you build your relationship, there's more things to look forward to. The problem is, you might, I like Jasmine. I love Jasmine. I'm madly in love with Jasmine, but what's important also is that I like her. Yeah. Like, this is the homie for real. Like, let it be, like, for real, let it be said. And I think what a lot of people are scared of is the fact that it's like, once the honeymoon phase fizzes out, you might be questioning what, like, whoa, this was cool in the beginning, but like, do I even really bang with you for real? Like, when the honeymoon phase ends, that's when you see them, like when they in a mood. You feel me? When they first wake up, when you see like the errors of improvement that they have in their life, their flaws start to show themselves, and you know, the traumas and things that still affect them start to show as well. And that's when you have to start asking yourself, like, do I really appreciate this person at the place that they are in their life, right? The whole person, from the top to the bottom, the rooter to the tutor. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people kind of skip that part where they ask themselves if they're willing to really engage with this person in their entirety, or do they just kind of want to have the memory of them in the honeymoon phase and put that mask on in order to interact with them. And that's what pushes them through the relationship. So they look up and they might be in a 3-year relationship, but not even really bang with the person. Yeah. Right? And ending the honeymoon phase, a lot of people think that means like you're arguing all the time, or like that's when like all the nagging and it's like, oh, this is my headache, blase, blase, blase. When in reality, the end of the honeymoon phase is just a transition from seeing the person like the best foot forward person to just the real version. Yeah.
And choosing to say, or choosing to, or making the choice to accept that person and love that person for who they are right now in this moment. And I started adding that part, like right now in this moment, when there was this idea floating around that people, or this narrative that people would fall in love with who they saw their person being. You know what I mean? Like, I may love you now, but like, I really love because I see so much potential in you. You know what I mean?
Yo, people don't even, like, that's, potential is such, like, who came up with the idea of potential? Because low key, you can be completely wrong about somebody's potential. Like, oh, they had so much potential. Did they? Honestly and truly. Or did you just misread that whole situation?
But no, I think a lot of people do that though, because in the honeymoon phase, when their best foot is forward, you know, you could project, be like, oh my gosh, this is how it's about to be for the next 20 years. And in reality, that honeymoon phase, as accurate as it, I don't even know, as accurate as it may seem. Yeah. There you go. Sometimes it's not who that person is every single day, you know? Yeah. And when you were talking about, I would say when those fears start to, you know, rear their head, or their past traumas or their baggage that they can no longer just like keep pushing down, and they start to affect your relationship, that's when it may not be roses every day, you know? And when you start to make the choice that I'm going to share this information, and I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be courageous in sharing this, and then you guys working through that and building that part, that's when that phase kind of
it goes away. It phases out. Because that's what it is. The honeymoon phase. What level of permanence is
a phase?
It isn't. It's supposed to phase in and phase out. And if you're the type of person where relationships are something that you like to build upon, you have to prepare yourself for when the honeymoon phase ends. And if you're the type of person where it's like, look, it was a good run, my G, but peace and blessings. No one can really be mad at you for that, but you have to be honest with yourself and not expect more out of what is supposed to just be deemed a temporary time period. Yeah.
So I would say for those that are fearful in the honeymoon phase ending, I would say think back on what specifically about your honeymoon phase that you are afraid of losing, you know, and prioritize one after you reflect on it, like come to a place where you're able to articulate that to your partner, because all that means is moving forward, both of you are in the position of knowing what needs to be done for you to feel loved in that situation, you know. And a lot of and I always think of the good morning text, because there was a point where our phase was ending and we weren't texting each other every morning. I think
we was getting up and going and be like, oh, what's up?
Because my senior year, I ran track. So some mornings I was up because I had Lyft,
Or like 6
So,
o'clock.
right. So I was
crazy.
up early and I knew Charles was sleeping until his class at 9 o'clock. You know what I mean? So we were on different schedules. So I wouldn't necessarily text good morning every day. And one day Charles was like, we used to say good morning every morning, like without fail. Like I knew when I opened my eyes, whoever was up first would make sure they took a second or a minute or whatever to say good morning. And in that moment, he had recognized that in the honeymoon phase, this was happening. We are transitioning away from that, but I still want this element to be carried through. Mm-hmm. And from that day, moving forward, I think there's been literally a handful, if that, of days that we haven't said good morning. Yeah. And that's a very tangible and very realistic way of taking something that you're going to miss, articulating it, and then carrying it out. And
I think for folk who are in the honeymoon phase right now, who are also like nervous about things changing, ask yourself if you are infatuated with the feelings of the honeymoon phase and you want that to continue more so than continuing a relationship with the person. Like if you could literally copy and paste how you're feeling with any other person out here in these streets, then you're really just kind of caught up in what's going on. But if you feel like it's the person that you're more so invested in, right? If it's the person that's really responsible for creating this element that you're connected to, and you want to pursue it, and you want to pursue this person, and you want to see where it goes, you want to invest in this person, and you're very excited about this person investing in you, that should be really a main motivation as well. Because I think a lot of people get caught up in the comfort of relationships, right? And like being in the bliss of the honeymoon phase is dope, especially when you type lonely.
Yeah.
Right? When you coming off a period where you were single as a Pringle, you feel what I'm saying? And there wasn't a lot going on, and then all of a sudden there's this person who's in my phone
all day long.
Good morning text, good night text.
Let's stay up on the phone.
You know what I'm saying? Falling asleep on FaceTime, using up all your data. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But there's other people who was like, this person was sent to me by the Lord. This is God ordained, right? And there's potential in this that I feel like, based off my discernment, is really gonna go somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's the one where it's like, okay, so with whatever comes with that, I'm prepared to really do the work. If you're willing to do the work, ride it out. If you're not, I mean, we all stuck in the crib anyway. It ain't nothing to just keep it pushing.
That's true. I was thinking about that the other day. I'm on tangents tonight, but
nobody's mad.
I was thinking about people being in relationships during this time, especially if you're not necessarily like living with your partner. If you are in a situation where maybe your honeymoon phase has ended and you've realized that this is not the person, for whatever reason, this is the time. Honestly, truly, this is the time. We are in the house until who knows when. You will have time to not only make a clean break, but give yourself some time to heal before you're having to, step back out, maybe see that person again, or just like get to a place where dating is what you want to do again. Like you really have the time to learn yourself, learn what you want, and make a clean break, regardless of, how that person's going to feel really. Y'all are at home.
It's a whole pandemic out here, bro. Can't nobody be mad at people just changing their mind on certain things. And like you said, like this is such a time for introspection.
Yes.
And really like self-reflecting on things, on elements of yourself, of self-improvement, of changing certain habits. People are stuck in the crib with their families. We talked about this a couple episodes ago, like just about working on the relationships that may have caused trauma.
Yeah.
So entering into a new relationship might be a lot right now. You know what I'm saying? So if you're not really willing to make that investment, or if you just feel like that time has come to a close, make that decision and be confident in that decision. And don't let anybody make you feel bad about making that decision.
That's good.
Oh yeah. We good?
Yeah.
Cool, man. Listen, thank you for tuning in to another installment of the Hope for Romantics podcast. We got so much love these past couple weeks, man. It's crazy.
Won't he do it? we had a vision, you know, for like what we wanted to do with this podcast. And we talk a lot, and we thank you guys a lot for just supporting this passion project, for supporting us. And, you know, because we've never made a podcast, you know, like we've never done these things. So we really are just building off of our own experiences and things that we've learned along the way, things that we've seen, things that we've heard, things that we want people to not do. Honestly, I think a lot of things we learn, we look at things that aren't healthy and we're like, there has to be another way. There has to be a better way. You know what I mean? So we really do appreciate you all.
Honestly and truly, man.
And the support. It means a lot. It really does.
Yeah. So please keep supporting. Like, share, subscribe, send it to your mama, your auntie, your sister, your cousin, your boyfriend, your husband, your wifey, all of them. And we gonna see y'all. Oh, follow us on the socials.
Yes.
At the Hopeful Romantics on Instagram, and Hopeful Pod on Twitter, and the Hopeful Romantics on Facebook. Until next time, stay hopeful.
And stay safe. And home.
And home, bruh. Stay.
Home.
Stay.
Home.
Stay.